Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. This is City Talk. Well, not exactly. Not at all. Just like last week. It's the Middle East and the Arab world, 2011. Something's happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear, even with hindsight, which is supposed to be 2020. To help clarify a very complex and fast-moving situation is a frequent guest here, Richard Murphy. Richard is the former U.S. ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Syria, Mauritania, and the Philippines. He has served as Assistant U.S. Secretary of State for Near Eastern and Asian Affairs and has been named Career Ambassador. He has been a senior fellow for the Middle East at the Council on Foreign Relations, and he is a frequent TV commentator and widely consulted expert, and he's just back from the region. Welcome back, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, last week we talked about sort of the macro issues. We looked at the United States and its influence in the region and what it ought to do. We looked at Al-Qaeda, and in a sense we took a tour of North Africa. Let's start today. Again, let's just look at Egypt, and then let's cross the Red Sea and look at Israel, Palestine. Let's look at Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the rest of the region. Let's go back to Egypt just for a moment. You talked about a variety of possible scenarios. One scenario, which I'd like you to explore a little bit more, is the scenario that involves the Muslim Brotherhood and those interests throughout the region that are affiliated with or associated with.
Well, the Brotherhood's been an institution dating back to the 1920s, and it has fostered branches in at least a half a dozen Arab countries. The leaders, the current and recently departed leaders of the Middle East, have focused on it, been fixated on it as a menace, as a threat. And they have played up sincerely, genuinely, or in a Machiavellian way, that threat to us. And ever since 9/11, we've been very receptive to that presentation. Mm-hmm. Stay with me, or it's going to be the chaos and the evils that the Brotherhood incarnates. Well, the Brotherhood has been knocked on the head repeatedly since Abdel Nasser's time in Egypt. And it has specifically forsworn violence. It did not lead the movement into Tahrir Square in Cairo, and it is very consciously taken a back seat, said we're not going to campaign for president, we're not going to campaign for dominance of the Egyptian parliament. We want to be one of many in this new order.
So this gets to your suggestion last week, or your hope that there would arise a more pluralistic civic society, and they might be part of it. Okay. Now let's look at Egypt, and let's look at the Israeli-Palestinian situation. Right. Let's look at it in and of itself, if you will, which you can't, the relationship between Palestine and Israel, whatever negotiations are going on, and U.S. role, and then look at potentially what might happen with the change in regime in Egypt vis-a-vis the Israelis.
Well, take the Israelis first.
Go ahead.
Our commitment to Israeli security is unquestioned across the American political spectrum. The Israelis anxiously survey our candidacies and our administrations for any sign of a wavering of support. There is no wavering of support. My question is that has there been, or will there be, an impact on Israeli political thinking when they see a democratic surge in what has been a very dependable relationship, secure relationship with Egypt? They can't say they're the only democracy in the area if this Egyptian revolution succeeds. Are they going to see this as an opportunity to take a fresh approach to the famous, infamous, so-called peace process.
And you're suggesting that they do so,
I
at least
hope-
implicit.
I hope very much that they are going to very carefully, vigorously, aggressively support what's going on in Egypt and find ways to restart, revive efforts for an Israeli-Palestinian agreement. They're going to face in Egypt predictably more critical, more and less supportive of, for instance, their sealing off of Gaza internationally. That has blown up repeatedly in their faces over the last several years, but they have stuck to the idea that these are eternal enemies of the state of Israel and we're going to isolate them.
And then U.S. Policy in the region has not been very successful, it appears to me, in terms of moving negotiations forward. Netanyahu doesn't want to play Nixon, it doesn't look like.
Well, he still suggests that, the only serious movement is going to be with an Israeli government in the hands of the conservatives, and he's self-styled the leading conservative of Israeli politics. So I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what the Israeli community is going to, what, if any, new consensus is going to emerge. But for us, this revolution, our ideals have never been closer to those of the Egyptians in the current state of play. Will the Israelis explore that as well as we should be exploring it? Egypt doesn't have. I expressed some pessimism last week about what will come out of the Egyptian revolution. Will they build the institutions? Is the political will going to be strong enough to sustain them through the bumps ahead on the road? And there are going to be some. There'll be disappointments because you can't magically transform an economy, give jobs to everybody in a sense of political participation. But it's starting off in that direction.
Look at Fatah, look at Hezbollah in the region. Is there something there that they need to examine their approach? Are there the democratic elements that exist in Egypt? Are they there in those organizations and in those regions, both in Palestine and in Lebanon?
Well, in Palestine, politics have become very sharply divided between Fatah and Hamas.
Right.
And we have supported that division. We've encouraged that division by the way we reacted to the election of Hamas back in 2006. The Palestinians have shown themselves to be divisible as a people, politically divisible. And the Israelis have shown themselves very expert at dividing the Palestinians. So the interplay has been that there is no one voice, there's no unity. The Palestinians, again, talking about it, but Hamas is very suspicious of Fatah and vice versa.
So you have as many internal problems than you have external problems. I mean, much of the dynamics is certainly internal, whether it's religious or otherwise, or geographic or tribal, it's there.
But, Arafat was laughed at by Israel as the Palestinian PLO leader years back when he said, I can't get to a peace treaty, but I can give you a long-term truce. And that was pushed aside. No, we're only interested in permanent long-term peace, not truces. Well, long-term truce, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, hey.
You'll take it.
Not bad.
Okay, let's cross the Red Sea now, and let's look at, well, we did cross the Red Sea in a sense, but let's look at Iraq, let's look at Saudi Arabia and the rest of the peninsula, let's look at Iran, let's look at Syria. So let's start with Syria. They had a day of rage scheduled, and nobody showed up in Syria. So they made sure nobody showed up?
Oh, yeah, that was a spontaneously no-show day because people knew darn well they were being watched very carefully and discouraged from going out. Does the
Syrian regime have the same structural problems that Egypt had maybe Libya had, Tunisia had. Is there legitimacy of the regime, or is it rotten and then a couple of demonstrations throws it over, or did the Syrians react as Gaddafi is and shoot your protesters?
It's much less brutal than it used to be, and less brutal than Gaddafi's Libya by far. The controls, there's a multiplicity of security services that are under the control of the Ba'ath Party and ultimately of the president of Syria, that keeps a very close watch, that has moved very slowly on economic liberalization. Life is better in Syria than it was for the average Egyptian, and probably better than definitely better than it was for the average Libyan. But the contrast between the open, thriving economy, bizarre as it may be in Lebanon, with that of their immediate neighbors is stark, because I think the conviction in Damascus over the years has been economic liberalization leads to turmoil politically and stimulates some ambitions that we don't want to stimulate.
And they think they're right, but go ahead.
Yeah. And they've admired the Chinese model that government knows best. And is there the same frustrations? Yeah, with the political class that was displaced in the Sunni community, which was the dominant political force in Syria for centuries, in that part of the Levant, by the coming to power of the Alawis. The Alawi and the leading family of the Alawi is that of the Assad family. They sent their sons to the military academy, the Alawis, and they pulled their community up from third-class citizens to the top. And the sons of the Sunni leading families had gone off to Harvard and gone off to Oxford, which were all very good places for higher education, but a little out of touch with the street in Syria. Mm-hmm. So that when they took over, they made sure that they put their people into key positions in security and the military, and they've stayed on top since '63. And
they look stable now, but next week we wouldn't be shocked if something happened?
Well, wouldn't be shocked. I mean, again, the same problems that are endemic in the area, the lack of jobs, the sense of deprivation, the frustration. They're there.
Corruption of the regime?
Less blatant, but there's a lot of favoritism, sure.
Okay. Let's now move to Iraq. You've had violent demonstrations in Iraq against the regime. Where are we with Iraq? I mean, now it's what, 8 years? 8 years, I guess, this month that we invaded Iraq to produce democracy, and without us doing anything, we've got at least the glimmers of it throughout the region without the $3 trillion and tens of thousands of our casualties and hundreds of thousands of Iraqis.
That was supposedly the position that the Saudi leaders talked to us about before we invaded, saying, knock him off, use a commando force, get rid of the guy. That's the way to handle it. But
which may be the way to handle Gaddafi, by the way. I mean, don't you think that ultimately...
Let it be a Libyan...
right, exactly. We need, him to be terminated with extreme prejudice by a Libyan. Okay, let's go back to Iraq. Go ahead.
Democracy, it wasn't certainly not stillborn, but it's a very small infant still in Iraqi politics. And there is concern. You hear it from they didn't win the election. The critics of Maliki as prime minister, actually they got a slightly higher vote in the parliament than they didn't get the prime minister at the end of the day. It took months and months of bargaining to produce a prime minister to keep Maliki in power. The criticism is he has autocratic tendencies, and could Iraq slide off the rails to another strongman government that where the leader knows best and you do what I say.
Or
else.
breakdown.
Yeah. Or breakdown.
Less so.
I don't think that the odds are against a breakdown, at least geographically.
Okay.
That Kurdistan would fly off into full independence.
Which was a possibility when we were looking forward several years ago.
It was a possibility, but
Not like
landlocked territory that its immediate neighbors, be they Iranian, Turkish, or Syrian, they don't want to see an independent, fully independent Kurdish state. They've all got Kurds that all give them headaches of one degree or another. But unhappiness and concern about the future is there, but the potential in Iraq is so enormous, the economic potential. The land is there, the water is there, the oil is there. And
an educated population is there.
Again, it was a very cultured community and
with millennia of history.
With millennia, many of whom, literally a few million, have left the country and are waiting to see the time to safely go home.
Okay, now let's look at Iraq's borders. So we looked at Syria. Jordan, the government collapsed in, I guess, early February. The prime minister was replaced, but that regime looks pretty solid as well. Again, a monarchy that seems to have survived. It wasn't delegitimized as, other regimes were.
Well, the king has followed in the footsteps of his father, that blame does not come to the king. Blame is those fellows who didn't do the job and take care of their own people like I had expected. So they've got to go. New man, who often has been an old man, 2 or 3 times back, is put in as prime minister. That's gotten a little shop-worn as a policy, but so far so good.
Okay. Let's then get to the Arabian Peninsula. Let's look at Saudi Arabia, which you know extraordinarily well, and Yemen and Bahrain, and just look at that region. The Saudis have to be really worried about the United States and our role and our relationship with them, and also what's going on. Talk about Saudi Arabia.
Well, the Saudis are very quick to accuse us of being inconstant in our relations. Hey, we abandoned the Shah. We abandoned Lebanon in its moment of need when President Reagan pulled the Marines out. When we came to the rescue of Kuwait,
which is really almost exactly 20 years ago.
Okay. When we came in there and made it plain, there was a very sharp, bright red line for Saddam to keep your distance from Saudi Arabia. That was reassuring. But, it's not easy to be rich. One is suspicious of the relations around. That said, the family is enormous. The family has some very talented personalities in position and waiting for time to bring them in to position of political authority. They have been quick to deal with the pressures that can be dealt with by money. When the king landed in Saudi Arabia after these last months of medical treatment here in New York, there was an award of $10 billion to various social funds and pensions, et cetera.
If you got the money, buy them off.
He's got the money, and it's worked.
Okay, but let's look at it from the American perspective. I mean, here you have our last strategic ally in the region, in a sense, as a counterpoint to Iran. But at the same time, you've got this medieval regime that is the source of Islamic conservatism. So here's a real classic case of American ideals clashing with political expediency.
Well, if you look closely and watch where the kingdom is in its public policies today compared to a generation ago, it has moved to open up. But it's slow. It's been slow. And there are voices from within the family, if you call them dissident but loyal, voices saying we got to do a more widespread and faster job at transforming political authority in the kingdom. They had one round of municipal elections a few years ago and then canceled the next round. It's been fitful. The advisory council that was appointed 20 years ago is still being appointed. It's not elected, and it doesn't have budget authority. Look at the American Congress. If it didn't have budget authority, who would be following its adventures day after day?
I don't even follow it now. No, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So there is a need to open up, to work on the educational system, work which is underway, but there is still some far out voices.
But they're not going to give up their conservative Islam and the exporting of a brand of very conservative Islam.
Well, as one of them said to me a few years ago, our problem on the export is that we send the ignorant out to work on the stupid.
Ooh.
Well, okay. I mean, so there's an awareness that the message that they thought they were sending to be a good Muslim ended up in a political group called Al-Qaeda.
Okay. Let's look around Saudi Arabia. You've got Yemen and you've got Bahrain. Yemen, over the last couple of days, looks like, if you're betting odds of what's the next autocrat to go, Salah looks like he's it. And you've got this 1,100-mile border with Saudi Arabia. They've got to be worried about Yemen. What's going on there?
Well, they always are worried about Yemen.
We have to be worried about Yemen.
Yeah. I mean, and the leader of Yemen has to deal with some unhappy tribes up in the north, a secessionist movement in the south, and the same problems. The kids don't have any jobs, and they're complaining, and they're saying, some are saying you get out of the job to Salah, and some are saying, things have got to improve. And it's a poor country. They do have oil, but it's a diminishing resource, and the population is surging upwards. He's got his hands full, and it was targeted by Al-Qaeda. That's one of the real cases of an ambition to take a territory that had limited, weak authority and implant yourself as a training center, which Qaeda has done in parts of Yemen.
Yep. Okay, let's go to across that 12-mile causeway to Bahrain.
Bahrain.
Before we've got to get to Iran. Go ahead.
Bahrain, 70% Shia, of long-standing community in Bahrain.
But the monarchy is Sunni.
The monarchy is Sunni, and the political weight in the leadership.
So it's in Saudi's interest. I mean, clearly, it's under their sphere of influence. They're not going to let anything happen there, I would think.
Well, I think they realize they're, again, better that the Bahrainis manage it themselves than the Saudis send its forces across the causeway 12 miles
they might.
away.
I mean, if it deteriorates.
It's a possibility.
Okay.
It's a possibility. But,
okay, in the last couple of minutes, Iran.
Well, Iran has been boasting about everything we've been talking about is thank God for the Iranian
Revolution.
Revolution.
That they in a sense caused all this.
It's BS.
Okay, pure BS.
And at the moment they are applauding themselves for fostering democracy in the Arab world, they are suppressing their opponents, repressing them and locking them up.
Yes, in fact, on February 28th, they arrested the two chief opposition leaders. Are they worried? They're always worried, and they have a justified paranoia, I guess. But objectively, should they be concerned? I mean, there've been rumblings before.
Probably they don't have to be immediately concerned, but there are very unpopular aspects to the regime. The Revolutionary Guard is in command. The supreme leader lost some of his legitimacy by intervening in the presidential election in Iran 2 years ago. He became like a party boss instead of the Supreme Guard, whose word came from the Lord himself.
So rather than from the Lord, you became, the local boss Tweed.
But the boss Tweed has a very powerful establishment called the Revolutionary Guard. So I'd be careful in saying that's ripe for a counter-revolution.
Now, What's the prospect of, again, what's the prospect of evolution there, given the similarity in popular conditions in Iran as in Egypt and other places? Educated population, lack of jobs, repressive regime, corruption, etc.
Well, I'd like to think that the Egyptians are showing the way in the Arab world, and that will have its influence on Iran.
You'd like to think it, but you don't.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Right.
The Iranians are playing with us defensively, not a direct challenge in Iraq, like the oil companies are being free to start their operations.
Right.
But in Lebanon, in Afghanistan, they're building up bargaining chips so that when they have to face us across the table, if they ever get to the, I don't know when that day is going to come, that they're seriously ready to negotiate, that they'll have something to bargain with. And the Ayatollah Khomeini, years back, made plain that Iran's leadership and his national role was maybe just as important, if not more important, than his religious role uniting Islam. A Shiite leader is not going to unite Islam.
Right. So we have another open question. So
it's an open question.
We have to wait for you to come back for my, at least my quarterly graduate seminar on international relations.
Well.
My special thanks to Ambassador Richard Murphy for his insight and wisdom, my guest for the last 2 weeks. See you next week when we talk about labor, Wisconsin, and the war on the middle class. Hello, I'm Doug Muzzio. Let us know what you think about this show. You can reach us at CUNY.TV. When you get there, click on the bar that says Contact Us and send your email. Whatever it is. Thanks, no thanks, obnoxious, do it. Send it.